Welcome to hell.
Hello and welcome to the Jersey Shore Musicians Podcast. Why do you always have to do that?
I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Always, every time.
Yeah, whatever.
It's
drinking.
It's getting
Leave me
old,
alone.
pal. It's getting old.
So's your face.
All right. Well, tonight we have the proprietor of Trustkill Records, Josh Grabelle.
Thank
Golf
you.
clap,
Welcome.
golf clap.
Thank you. Thank you.
How was your trip here? Good?
Trip was fine. Yeah, no shore traffic.
Yeah,
None yet.
that's what's the good thing about Mondays.
Just zip down here on a Monday. Yeah, if it was Friday, it would have taken me 4 hours.
Yeah,
right?
that's why we don't do it on Fridays.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
Nope.
That's a Friday, too, so.
All right. So for people who aren't familiar with you, why don't you give us a little history on what you do in music and where you got started and how you got here today?
All right. I started getting into punk rock and hardcore when I was about 11 or 12. I heard the Bad Brains record and instantly fell in love with the music. And at that point, all I wanted to do was see punk rock and hardcore bands. Saw my first hardcore show when I was 13 in Belmar on the shore. I saw an Underdog show, which just changed my life. And from then on, I just went to every hardcore show I could. Got rides with like older friends. Was going down to Trenton to City Gardens, going up to the city to CBGB's, every basement in VFW in New Jersey, and then went away to college and started getting more involved. When I went away to college, I started doing a fanzine. I started a band. I interned for a distribution company. I started another fanzine called Trustkill, and then I turned that into a record label at some point.
There you go.
Sounds like you ran the gauntlet on that one. Like, oh, well, just make it a label.
So what have you done? A little bit of everything. You know? Little column A, little column B.
Yeah, I just, I mean, for me, when I was in high school and college, hardcore music was just everything. And I just needed to be involved and do as much as I possibly could. Never thought I would be here talking about it 20, 30 years later.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, it just took over my life and I just started doing everything I could, and one thing led to another, and here I am.
Talk about what were the things that like kind of made it into like, okay, said label. Like, what are the things that you kind of did like behind the scenes to kind of get everything rolling?
Well, the first record came out when I was a sophomore in college. I did it with my friends Joel and Jason, who had already started a record label of their own called Watermark.
Okay.
So I learned a lot from them. We were the same age, but they had started a label even before I did. And yeah, I just learned a lot of the ropes from them, figured out how to press a record. And, you know, this is before the internet, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was early to mid 90s.
Okay.
So
yeah, you weren't just going online going,
yeah, you couldn't just go online.
press
So,
it.
you know, I had to ask around, make some phone calls and just figure stuff out. And then I put a couple records out, just using my own money, just kind of rolling one thing into the next. And then after a couple records, I realized like, oh, maybe I could, like, this could be a real thing. Like I could pay the rent someday, you know, or maybe hire a friend.
Yeah, hire a friend.
And that took years, probably, you know, 6 to 8 years of running the label before, before I was like, oh, I'm comfortable paying my rent next month, and I can hire a friend and, you know, give him cash to like do some mail order.
Okay.
And then, you know, a couple years later, I got a distribution deal with Sony, and then was able to like really build a staff and get things moving.
Okay. Wow. That's something.
Yeah.
So basically, like, let's fast forward to whatever, mid 2000s, whatever, like, what were you doing to get, records pressed to, you got Sony distribution. What do? Do you just hand, like, here's the record, I want it distributed? Like,
Kinda,
how
yeah.
much does that cost? Here's the money that's owed, yada,
The
yada.
major labels and the major distributors, they want to keep everything in house, right? So in the 2000s, Sony had their own pressing plants and their own warehouses and everything, and they just wanted you to do everything through them. But when I got there, I was still of the punk rock DIY mindset, and I was like, nah, I don't want you guys manufacturing my CDs or my records, so I'm going to do them myself, and I'll just ship them to you, and then you guys handle it, and that's what we did.
And they were okay with that, or
yeah,
there was a
yeah.
pushback?
Yeah, I had to make up a lot of my own rules.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones was when I signed my deal with Sony, I didn't want to just like jump out of the hardcore world to like the mainstream major label world and like, big box retail, they call it, right? Like Best Buy, Walmart.
You got to stick to your roots, yeah.
Yes, right? So I was like, I need to make sure that hardcore kids can find my records. So I just made sure that the deals I had in place before I made my deal with Sony, that a lot of those relationships I continued to cultivate and did deals with those labels and distributors, and to make sure that like my records were going to be in every mom and pop record store and every distro table at every big hardcore show. That was really important to me. So I was like
Back then,
doing that.
there was mom and pop record stores back then.
Yeah, I was doing that. Yeah, there were a ton, right? I mean, there was, the vintage vinyls, there were, everything. And that's what I grew up on, right? Like I bought every record that I own from Jack's and Red Bank and Vintage Vinyl and Ocean. That's where I bought every record. So that was important to me.
Okay. And now let's fast forward to now. How much has changed?
Well, a ton, because we're not focusing on retail,
Okay.
right? Or the retail landscape now is streaming.
Is it okay?
There's no real physical product
I mean,
anymore.
there is. It's just very niche, right? It's like how vinyl was niche in the 2000s, or it's still
and now
niche.
Cassettes are all of a sudden a thing
Well, yeah,
again.
cassettes.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Cassettes are making a comeback. Yeah, everything's, there's a niche market for all mediums.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, now we're not really. I'm still distributed through a major. Now I'm with Virgin, Universal. They kind of combined, and so I'm with them. So I do have access to their distribution channels to get into the bigger stores, but I don't even try anymore because the focus for me is mostly on digital streaming, and then vinyl.
Are
And
they doing anything to help with the digital streaming and stuff like that?
Are they doing anything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was just curious. Like, I know back in the day, whatever, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Today's a different, it's kind of Wild Westy. So it's kind of like,
And everyone has a different approach on how to
Well,
approach, the digital streaming networks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, anyone can just do a deal with CD Baby or whoever the other ones are.
DistroKid,
Yeah, DistroKid, and just get their records up there. That's cool. Being with a major label and having the leverage that they have is pretty great for me and for my bands and my records for various reasons. I mean, the biggest one being that they use their catalog to leverage, better streaming payouts and other things for me and my catalog.
Playlist placement and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. You don't hear that too very often.
I mean, the music business has always been about the more people you have on your team, the better, right? Like you can just be a band and go at it DIY and have no manager, no agent, no label, no nothing, and that's fine. But the bigger team you have, the more people you add on, the more likelihood you're going to have of success because there's more people fighting for you at every opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like to get those festival slots, to get the, like all the things that people want now, right? They want those festival slots. They want the playlisting. They want, you know, their vinyl to look awesome and be everywhere. And, you know,
I just still think it's crazy. Like, as a band, like, your most important thing is your Spotify streams. Like, that's it. That's just mind blowing to me.
I mean, it's crazy, but also
like, you could be terrible, but if you have really high streams,
Yeah.
you'll still get somewhere.
Yeah.
You could be
Yeah.
terrible.
I mean, but like, thank God for Spotify though, right? Like, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It's like people hate it, but also like they
It's a
saved
necess-
they saved the
necessary
music
evil.
business, right? Like at the end of the 2000s, it was decimated.
Is there any signs of it being growing back? Like, honestly, we all kind of follow music in certain business aspects and stuff, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse.
What's getting worse? Like the
Overall, I mean, you could go from the way amplifiers are built to the way guitars are built to the way getting paid for streams to getting onto a record label for distribution. It just seems to be
like
constantly
it's getting harder.
You know what? I don't want to say
What's
hard.
less
It's
and
always
less
been
in the
harder.
musician's favor, we'll say.
I want to say it's almost like it's watered down.
I could see that.
Like,
yeah,
okay,
I-
so like an amplifier now, like you could spend $2,000 on a Marshall amplifier. Sorry, Marshall. And if it breaks, you just throw it out. It's like a computer. It means nothing. Like there's no connection anymore. I feel like the connection has been lost, and that's in just all aspects. I'm using that as an example. But like, let's say a band gave you a disc. Like, what are some of the things that you look for to, I don't know, if you would sign, to help? Like, what are some of the things that you look at a band?
Well, I have to love the music first and foremost. I mean, the music, the songs.
Right there is rare. Right there, that's a good sign, but that's rare.
I mean,
Yes.
that comes first. I mean,
How about from a business aspect? Like, would you look to see what the band has?
work ethic? You know, I've signed some bands in the past where they thought that signing the record deal was like their last move. Right?
Okay.
And I'm like, no, that should be like your first move. Like
Yeah,
that,
you just opened the door
like
to
you
a new
just
place.
opened the door, like you're just getting started.
This
Now,
is the next chapter, bud.
now is when all the work has to begin. It's like if I'm running circles around a band, that's not going to work, right?
Okay.
Like I have to love the band, but the band's got to love themselves and want to invest in themselves and want to put in the work necessary to like get to that next level, right? Like,
Well, that is one thing about today is I've noticed quite a few bands just kind of like put stuff out there and they're just hoping for that one thing that goes viral and they don't have to really like
yeah,
do anything or work for it and they
that's-
just kind of hope like that miracle happens.
it's never
and
going to
they're like,
happen.
No,
Boom! Here
it's
we
Never
are.
going to happen. It's like
I mean, it happens once in a blue
getting
moon,
hit by
but
lightning.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
I think like maybe people think it does, but like when you look at that band, if you talk to them, they'll be like, well, actually, you know, this happened first, and then we had to do this, and then, you know, it's always like
something. Yeah.
there's never like an overnight success.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like it takes a while.
except that fish chick.
Yeah, but that's not.
Why she made for making a video about a fish, a song about a fish, and like 2 months later, she's like main stage at Bonnaroo. Come on,
It's not real. That's not a real.
I know,
thing.
but it still happened.
That's like concert promoters being like, let's see if this works. You know, like, oh, that's another good question. Now, when your bands has to go on tour, do you have to work with their team, like whether it's a road manager to promoters?
Yeah.
Like, are you like, so you're
Yeah.
kind of keeping your hand on everything?
So he
to
seems like
make
a very
sure-
hands-on.
Yeah.
guy,
I am very hands-on. I mean, again, in the 2000s, I had a staff, but I let them all go at the end of the 2000s. And it's just been me ever since. So, you know, I hire out where I need to sometimes for like, you know, video editing or whatever, but I do most things myself. But when the bands are on tour, yeah, they have their tour manager, their, you know, merch guy, their lighting guy, their sound guy.
Text.
There's techs, there's the manager, there's the booking agent. You know, I'm usually dealing you know, day-to-day stuff is usually with managers and booking agents.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see a little different side of it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool for that because you always just see the one. Like I only know one side of it, and most of the time you guys are evil. But you know,
I
like
mean,
you just go do it anyway.
Sometimes record labels are owned by just a dude who loves music.
Yeah, and you know what? That's very rare now.
That's to say, it is very rare.
It's very rare. So
most
that's
people
cool.
do it because, like, hey, I can make a lot of money off these fucks. And musicians are stupid, and they'll let me do it.
So I talked to a friend who's a very big enough touring guy. He said the insurances now are fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean,
like the pie chart, like there's a big color of orange or a big color of insurance. You know what I mean? Like it's not like this little thing anymore. It's like it's a big fucking deal. I think there's like policies of $1 million or something like that. You know?
yeah. Fortunately, a $1 million insurance policy isn't actually that much money.
Oh, that's good. Until it happens, that's Great White though.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at the things that can potentially go wrong at a music festival, at a hardcore punk rock show,
people will sue over anything these days.
That's true.
I mean, you can't. I'm a lawyer. I know you can sue. You can sue anyone for anything. You know, you look at what happened to Trophy Eyes in Buffalo recently. Someone stage dived at their show, and some girl got paralyzed.
Oh, fuck.
Like that's horrible.
Yeah.
If that band doesn't have an insurance policy, like they might be screwed, like for
See,
life.
but to me, in that situation, when you're there at that show and you choose to do that, that's on you.
That might be that might be
that's
what a
normal logic.
judge is going to say.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Right?
But
So
that's why I said to
Do
me.
you want to put that fucking little thing in there to see if somebody else is going to
And
say
then,
that?
You know, on the other side of things, there's also the potential for a death, right? Like if you look at what happened to Lamb of God in Czechoslovakia or wherever that was in Europe somewhere, a couple years ago, like some kid fell off the stage and died, and like that's horrible. Like if
He was in jail for a little while too. That
he
being
was
held,
he was in prison for about 12 months before they let him out. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, insurance is a necessary evil. You have to have it. I mean, we all have it to drive, to live in a house. You got to have it to tour in a bus or a van, and you got to have it to play certain shows. And yeah,
Don't forget gas is a bitch too.
Oh yeah, it's coming down though.
Well, no, I mean tour bus. They don't fucking
gas.
care.
Oh yeah. Everything's more expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everything. I went out to a show in Asbury Park on Saturday night, and I could not. I'm still stunned by it, by how much they're charging to park in Asbury Park
Oh, it's got to be a lot.
on a regular ass weekend. Not even a holiday weekend. The parking lots are charging $50.
Oh,
Yeah. So like I went down for a show at Summer Stage, right? I didn't get there till 7 p.m. and the parking lots are still charging $50 to park. So I'm like out of principle alone, I just can't do it. Like I just drove around for like 45 minutes looking for a parking spot. But yeah, everything's more expensive right now.
yeah.
Parking, gas, insurance,
Well, I mean,
all of it.
We have no love lost for Asbury around here. Where they're out of their minds over there.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Well, it's like I went to go see. It's like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I went to go see Baroness and Red Fang at the
Nice.
Pony.
I was going to go to that.
It was a great fucking show. But I went to go order the tickets online, and there was like $38 in service charges on each
Fees.
ticket.
Yeah.
Each ticket. The tickets were only $40. So I just like, you know what? I'm going to drive the 45 minutes to Asbury and save myself like $120. It's fucking nuts what they charge these days, and that's just to get into the show. And then, like you said, then you got to park, and then when you're in there, you're paying fucking $15 for a beer.
You been to a show at Prudential Center lately?
No,
Parking there is like $60 or something.
God,
And you can't, it's not like you can park anywhere else.
oh yeah,
No, you
you have to, yeah,
You have to park where they tell you to park, or else you get murdered.
oh yeah. That's why I much prefer the small venues.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Oh no, I saw a Devils game there. So yeah, no, we took fucking. Of course you're going there.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Wow. Damn.
It's everything. It's
So okay,
everything.
now that we're going through that, doesn't it make you feel like holy shit? What are we all doing?
More like what the fuck happened?
I mean, we have from amps costing $3,000 and you throw them away to another guitar that's probably $2,000 to now you're parking for $50. Your gas is $70. It's like fuck.
In the 90s, when I was putting out vinyl records, again, I was from the punk rock DIY world. Yeah. So I couldn't even fathom charging more than $8 a record. Right?
Oh, how much are they now?
Like $8 was like the maximum I could ever charge. And now people are buying records for $25. Like 25 is like the standard price now.
Wow.
For a 12-inch record.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
It's up there.
But like people don't really mind now. I guess maybe because they're also buying less records. Right? Like in the 90s you bought every record that you listened to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're just buying maybe one or two a month of your favorite bands or whatever it is.
If it is a month. How often do bands put out records now on your label? Like what's the time frame you think? And just a guesstimate.
Oh, 2 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. They're not like Tool. They don't wait 5 to 10 years.
I think a lot of bands the touring schedules aren't as crazy as they were back in the 2000s. I think bands are being a little more picky, right? You're not playing 15 shows out to California anymore. You're doing just some major cities along the way, longer drives maybe. But I think bands it's hard to find time to get all together and write songs. So it takes bands a long time, like might be 6-12 months after a touring cycle, they can finally get together and write a record. But yeah, I usually see it being, like a 2-year album cycle. Makes sense.
And you have them, I'm assuming, staggered. I mean, obviously, no one can do that. But
I've never in my life forced a band to record a record.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see any point.
How many bands have you thrown off a record label? You don't say names, just number.
Oh, almost none.
Really?
Yeah, I rarely drop a band.
Oh, wow.
And when I commit to a band, I commit.
You're so understandable.
It would take a lot. I mean, if you look at my catalog of records and bands, I'll sign a band and they'll change singers, and the next album sounds totally different, and I'm still supporting them.
Okay.
I think as an independent label, financially, it's more difficult to sign a bunch of bands and just drop bands whenever I want to. That's kind of like a major label mentality.
Okay.
Right? Sign 10 bands, dump a bunch of money into all of them, and one of them will work and you drop the other 9.
Yeah.
That wasn't really the way I ever did things. I signed a couple bands a year and I just stuck with them.
Okay.
So pretty rare that I drop a band.
You have any good stories of a band just going completely mental on each other and just being like, fuck you, I hate you, and then leaving?
I mean, all the time. Pretty much every band.
That's awesome.
Yeah, usually
They
if a
implode.
dude...
And then they hug the next day. I'm sorry.
A lot of times when you hear about a guy leaving a band, right, and they write some big, Instagram note, and it's everything's cool.
That's all just PR.
Yeah, usually not everything is cool.
Everything was cool. Why were you leaving?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. There's,
They ever call you up and be like, so and so left, sorry.
I mean,
Or
yeah,
you get it from Instagram.
It's crazy because I could tell you, which dude left which band during which album cycle for 100 of my bands, but it's rare that I remember what the reason was, and if they got kicked out or if they quit. So I don't remember. I'll be like, oh yeah, that dude left the band before this record came out, but I don't really remember why. But yeah.
Okay.
It's do you remember the band 36 Crazy Fists?
Of course. Yeah.
Brock. Yeah. And when he
Alaska.
left the band, and I guess his new band was on the same label as Crazy Fists, and as soon as they got dropped from the label, I mean, every social media they had was fuck that dude, blah, blah, blah. They were posting pictures of him and this guy's an asshole.
Really?
I was like, oh shit. And then 3 days later, it was all taken down.
Yeah.
That's him going, hey, man. Somebody in your position, hey, man, take that shit down.
That sucked too because I always loved that band.
I didn't realize that the singer quit or?
He went to a totally different band.
Oh, I had no
Yeah.
idea. Oh. I mean, that
They
band
sound
was.
just like 36 Crazy
I was gonna say
Fists.
the band is. That band would be difficult to replace the singer, right? Because like Brock's voice was
He's
so
very, very unique. Yeah.
very unique. Yeah.
The only band I ever knew that was from Alaska.
There are very few bands from Alaska. Yeah. Plus, they moved to Portland when they became a real band.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to be a touring band in Alaska.
yeah.
Because you have to add either flights to get to
Or a long ass fucking
to get
drive.
to like Portland or Vancouver or Seattle, right? Or it's a 25-hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that doesn't really work. So that's why 36 Crazy Fists moved. They're like, we want to be a real band. We
it makes sense.
Can't
Makes
be in
sense.
Alaska.
They're kind of like way out of the way in the middle of fucking nowhere. So
I've been up there.
Makes sense.
I went up there to like scout bands and like
In Alaska?
they did like the promoters up there. This was like 2011 or 12 or something. They did like a metal and hardcore like not like an American Idol, but like some kind of like competition thing. And so they flew out me and a couple other A&R guys from Century Media and whoever else, and just to watch a bunch of Alaskan hardcore metal bands. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sounds-
Did you
sounds
sign
like you have a lot
anybody
of
from there?
stories.
What's that?
Did you sign anybody from
I
there?
didn't sign anyone, but I saw some cool bands and got some cool records, and it was pretty awesome.
This guy sounds like he's got a lot of stories.
I got a lot of stories.
All right, well, let's just go at what's the first band that you signed to your label
The first band that I signed.
that you really like? This is the band for Trustkill, and we're gonna.
So
we're
I
gonna
had
do
I
this.
put a couple records out, just like some 7 inches and
Like
things like
compilations
that.
and stuff?
Yeah, a 7-inch. The first band that I signed, like, and put out like a real full length album for, was a band called Despair from Buffalo, who the singer went on to sing for Buried Alive, and then now he sings for Terror. So that was the first band that I technically signed, was
That's
Despair.
cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool. So will we go through some of the bands you have on your label currently?
Well, so to rewind a little bit, so Trustkill went away in 2010. I got it back in 2022. So I've spent the last 2 years just dealing with the catalog, cleaning up a lot of like worldwide streaming issues.
Nonsense.
So during the 2000s, the big thing was to license out records overseas. So like every record I put out in the 2000s was licensed in Japan, in Europe, in South America, all over the place, South Africa. And that was awesome for the time. But as we've now conglomerated, I guess, our catalogs, all those records and all those territories kind of went missing because distributors went bankrupt, licensing companies went bankrupt, they went away, records, licensing deals expire. So I've been cleaning all that up, and then also releasing vinyl. We're doing reissues and remixes and remasters, and I got some box sets coming out. So really like focusing on the catalog bands, like Bleeding Through, It Dies Today, Hopes Fall. I just did an Earth Crisis record. What else? I'm about to drop. I have about 15 or 20 records I'm working on, all from Trustkill legacy bands, and then I'm also working on some new stuff too.
Yeah, like Bleeding Through and Earth Crisis. Those bands are they're not small bands.
No. Yeah, I mean, I had records that I sold 100,000 copies of that had never been on vinyl. So that's what I had to do, was like, oh man, like there were some things missing. Like we got to get...
It's time.
It's time. and yeah, and a lot of bands wanted, I opened up the archives. I have 5 filing cabinets worth of master tapes and reels, and so we've been like digging into that, and bands are like, oh man, we'd love to remix this and we'd love to redo this, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, no better time like now.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, what else? Most Precious Blood, Walls of Jericho, This Is Hell, Throwdown.
I love Throwdown. They were so good.
18 Visions, Poison the Well, Bullet for My Valentine. These are all bands in the catalog, putting out records, playing festivals, going on tour. Pretty wild.
That's cool.
A lot of bands that I signed 20-something years ago are still playing. And, you know, I got It Dies
Well,
Today.
I've noticed since COVID, a lot of bands that were dormant for like 10, 12 years, 15 years.
Well, yeah.
Like they're just like all of a sudden
we
out
can
of nowhere,
say
they're
that-
like, yeah, we're playing again.
We can say that about everything,
Yeah.
right? Bands, record labels, music festivals. I think everyone during COVID was like, oh, we should do that old thing that we used to do. Right?
Do that
Like,
thing.
like that was cool. Let's get the band back together and let's also do this. And,
The band, Elwood. The band.
yeah. So yeah, a lot of that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sure.
Thirsty.
Okay.
You all right?
Yeah,
Am I allowed to
fine.
drink water?
I just was. You never really do that.
I drink 2 bottles of water every podcast.
Okay.
You just don't pay attention.
I don't. Sorry.
While we're talking about those bands, It Dies Today, Walls of Jericho, 18 Visions, and This Is Hell are all playing at the Starland Ballroom on October 26th.
Okay.
So tickets on sale.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Check that out.
Local
Yeah.
show.
Local, yeah. It's only about 45
The
minutes from here.
Walls of Jericho. Is that from the wrestler? Somebody just like the wrestler.
I
I think they were around before.
they were around before.
Oh,
before
okay.
that, yeah.
I signed them in like 1999.
Oh, he was before that. He was before
Possibly.
that.
I don't know.
Yeah, he was. He was like early 90s. As a wrestler. Now he's a band.
I'm
Now
gonna
he
have to-
plays
I'm gonna have
in
to look that
Fozzy.
up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He was like
I'm not sure.
around-
I think it's like a biblical thing.
Yeah.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I'm not good at that
I
shit.
remember seeing them at the Birch Hill
Oh yeah,
way back when.
awesome. I'm sure I was there. Birch Hill
Like
shows.
a
are
bunch
great.
of the bands you were running through, I'm like, I saw them, saw
Yeah.
them, saw
Yeah.
them.
That's cool.
Birch Hill shows were great. Earth Crisis with Downset. That was awesome.
They just played in New York.
Downset.
Or
Yeah, they
they're-
played with Furia 5.
just a
And,
couple weeks ago, right? Yeah, I really wanted to go.
But they got
to
a new
that.
singer.
Downset did?
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Oh, neither did I.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the first time I saw them was Ozfest '97
Oh,
at
wow.
Giant Stadium.
Nice.
Yeah, they were playing like the small stage. We're sitting there, we're like, it's gonna be one of those crappy bands. And then they started playing. We're like, who the fuck is this? I love that band, man.
Oh yeah. Anger.
Oh, what's it? Do We Speak a Dead Language? Probably has the greatest album intro of all time, right? In
Yeah.
No Power.
Great record.
Oh yeah, great record. That and back then I used to listen. I was really big on Candiria.
Nice.
And they're still popping around here and there.
They play sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I think
They put out a record 2019, I think it was, somewhere right before COVID.
I can respect that band, but I never all those like technical, jazzy metal bands.
They were jazz musicians that were like, you know what, we're
Yeah.
gonna fucking play metal and
Exactly.
piss off everyone. but Ken Schalk is a fucking monster on the drums. Monster.
I am sure they are all great musicians. But I always say, like, give me a simple Green Day riff, right?
Yeah.
Over, some jazzy, off time, whatever.
Yeah, some of my favorite shows back in the day were like E-Town and Candiria.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Even they're coming. They're supposed to be putting out new music soon too, right?
E-Town?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they just put out a new single, Level Up. It's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. They got the Starland show coming up with
Well, that's like their once a year.
Yeah, that's
Their
their
once a year,
annual,
like, hey,
the
we're
annual
back.
E-Town Starland show.
They just don't do it on Valentine's Day anymore.
Yeah, this one's stacked, though. The lineup is stacked.
Yeah, they're playing with Bayway and
Yeah.
a couple other bands, right?
So it's funny you say that. I was getting dressed earlier to come down here, and I put on my Bayway motherfucker T-shirt. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wear my Bayway shirt. But then I realized I can't wear a camo hat with a camo shirt, and I was wearing this hat today.
You'd be like John Cena.
Yeah, it's all my guy. I can't do dual camo.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, you are almost in the pines. It would almost be fitting.
Yeah.
Almost.
Almost. We're right there.
So okay, let's fast forward 5 years from now. What are you looking forward to doing next?
Oh man. Just trying to, where I was in the 2000s, like I don't think I'll ever get back to where that was just because the world is different.
The industry's
the
different.
industry is way different. Hardcore scene is a little bit different. Things are just way different. But
Well, I've noticed the hardcore scene kind of goes in waves. And like when you were saying at your pinnacle, that was like the peak of the wave. And I think we've skimmed the bottom, and now we're starting to climb again.
I think, hardcore right now is in a great spot. There's a lot of great labels. I'm just trying to figure out like where Trustkill fits in 2024 and beyond. Because, it's like when you have like your favorite anything, right? Your favorite actor or your favorite, it's like I loved Jim Carrey and, Will Ferrell, and I wanted them to just do those same comedies for the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah.
But they're not.
That's not how it works, yeah.
Right? It's like we grow up and things change and new comedians came around, and right? So for me, I'm like, hardcore in 2024 is in a different place, and there's other labels that are like carrying the torch, right? So for me, it's like, how do I just want to like be involved and help out and put out great records without stepping on toes and without, like.
Well, you're like the voice for the hardcore kids of the 90s and early 2000s in the present day.
It's true. It's true.
Because the ones that are thriving right now are the younger guys that are in it, and this is their scene, and they're kind of just taking it and running with it.
It's funny. Dylan from Takedown, sorry, who does a lot of the shows at Salty's and Belmar and is putting out some great records. He said today that the first record he ever heard with streaming on it was the first Bullet for My Valentine record I put out. So that's kind of awesome.
Kind of cool, yeah.
Because like now he's the one doing all the shows here and taking care of New Jersey hardcore. And like his first introduction was a record I put out. So that's pretty awesome. Also,
it's gotta make you feel good though.
What's that?
That's gotta make you feel good.
Yeah, it was cool. I also, speaking of 90s hardcore, I have a book coming out called Trustkill 90s Hardcore coming out later this year, which is like everything that I was doing in hardcore in the 90s before I started my label. So I was doing my fanzine, and I was taking photos, and I was doing all these things. So I'm making a book about that.
That's kind of
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little history lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How we got here. Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of New Jersey, right? Because that's I was here, and
Interesting.
Oh, so we've heard this about other labels and stuff like that. So do you set aside a budget for TikTok?
I don't. I've never spent a penny on TikTok.
Thank you.
No.
We've talked to people where there's actually like when they look at their contract, it's like they have a set budget for like social media content specifically. So now TikTok, because that's like the new thing.
It's the new thing. It's huge. It does mean a lot for a lot of acts and a lot of record labels, but for me, for hardcore and metal, I don't really see any reason to spend money. I love TikTok, and Trustkill has a pretty big presence on TikTok, but it's just, I'm not trying to like start a new Kubla Khan dance or whatever it is, right? I'm just like showing you, here's some sick Earth Crisis video, right? Or here's part of this awesome music video we put out in the 2000s that on YouTube, it's all blurry and compressed and, at like 240 pixels, right? So like that's what I use TikTok for. But I do know what you're saying that when I talk to my distributor about setting up a new record, at this point, they don't really care if I'm placing an ad in a magazine, if I'm doing a radio campaign. What they mostly care about is which influencer are you going to pay to promote this song on TikTok? Wow. And I'm like, well, fuck that. I don't want to pay anyone like that. That's weird.
Well, like I said, a lot of times with anything you do,
It's weird, but it's what's going on.
yeah, when you try to submit your music or do something with somebody else, the number one and number two thing they look at are your Spotify streams and how many followers you have on various like social media accounts.
Yeah, I mean that is where
But
we
I'm saying, normally when you think of a band, like I would think the music should be number one or number
It
two.
should be. It should be.
A lot of
but,
them more.
but
Call
the
me
ga-
crazy.
But the gauge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you tell me about a new band, what am I going to do?
You gotta check it out.
I'm going to go to their Spotify. I'm going to go to their Instagram. And I'm going to see who's talking about them on Twitter, right? So that's
Twitter's still a thing.
yeah. I'm on Twitter all day. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. And it depends on what you're there for. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you like hardcore and you're not on hardcore Twitter, then I don't know.
Then are
it's
you even hardcore?
Are you? I don't think you
are
are.
you hardcore?
You're not.
I don't
You're
use
not.
Twitter
You're
at
not.
all. Like we have a Twitter. I don't think I've ever posted anything.
I
on
feel
it.
like if I'm missing out on today's hardcore Twitter dialogue, then I feel lost. Like I have to know what's happening.
Got to be in the know.
I got to be in the know. Yeah. People think like, oh man, Facebook is for old people. There's no point in posting on there on my band page or whatever. But the crazy thing is like the Trustkill social media is big, and it's the biggest on Facebook, like by a mile.
Yeah.
The videos I post, the stuff like the engagement on Facebook is wild, and I think it's because it's been around the longest. But also they have something that no one else does is the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And the Facebook groups are just huge.
And the generation you're going after of like the 90s and early 2000s hardcore kids,
Yeah.
Facebook was where they got, that's
Yeah.
unless you go back to like MySpace, which is dead, but like Facebook is where they're still all, Instagram, TikTok, and they're all the younger generations more predominantly.
Yeah. So yeah, Facebook is great for me and for my.
And not to mention, in today's day and age, you can literally go to one place, post something, and it'll post it everywhere for you. It's not like you got to go out of your way to put it on Facebook. Like, post it on Instagram. It's automatically going to go to your Facebook.
True.
There's no extra steps involved.
But like when we were talking about like everything getting watered down and shit, like it's part of like really.
Well, the watering down, I think, is a lot of like the there's less opportunities for bands and for music in like today.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the 2000s, I could give you a list of like 50 things that a band would want. Like when I signed them, they're like, oh, we want this. We want our CDs in Best Buy, and we want our records here, and we need to be on the front page of iTunes. And there's so many things that a band wanted.
Now Best Buy is about to go out of business.
And now, having a record in Best Buy is
nothing.
No one cares.
Yeah.
But now there's just a lot less. It's like, well, we want to be on this playlist. It's like, okay, we can work on that. But there's just less opportunities to market and promote your music outside of social media.
Well, we talk about it on here a lot
but to
too.
say that social media is the greatest way to market yourself ever.
Oh, yeah. But it's also in today's day and age of the MacBooks and the USB interfaces, every Tom, Dick, and Harry puts out music. And there's so much less opportunities, like you said, and it's so much more oversaturated. So you have to cut through so much more shit to be able to even get heard by somebody that could potentially help you.
Of course. The barrier to entry is way low now.
Yeah.
Right? Like there basically is no barrier. It used to be you'd have to come up with a couple $1,000s to get into a studio for a couple days to record a couple songs and or make a record, right? Now you don't need that.
You do it in your living room.
Just do it in your living room.
Yeah.
Send it out, get it mastered.
And you don't really need a label to get your music distributed to the streaming sites, right?
Yeah.
You can use CD Baby or whoever.
There's a million of them, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, but if you want the things, if you notice that the bands that are getting the opportunities that you want, you go and you notice like, oh, they have a manager and they have a booking agent and they have a record label and they have a sound guy who makes them sound good when they play. Like these are things that are important, and you gotta pay money for that.
And a guy that runs their lights, so everything's coordinated.
Of course.
Yeah. Everybody's on the same page. That's at a live show, so yeah, everybody's on the same page.
It's like going back to that Baroness show. That's the one thing I loved is they had all their lights set up. All their albums are colors. So every time they would play a song, all the lights would be the color of what album they were
cool.
on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was trying to get some friends to go to that show. Nobody wanted to go with
Oh,
me.
it was such a good show. And you were talking about Killswitch before. The opening band was
it's
Libica.
Libica, yeah.
Justin from Killswitch.
Justin's band,
And
the instrumental band.
Fucking awesome.
Awesome. It was cool.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering, so I'm like,
great.
I wonder how this goes over. But I guess like in that crowd, it's the perfect crowd, right?
I mean, you could see that
Like
some of the
dudes in
people that were
jean
there were
jackets.
kind of lost because they're like staring at the guy waiting for him to sing. And me, I love instrumental music. Like I love it. And I'm sitting there just like this. And it's just like, I mean, they were tight. And it was good. And like, you could just see some of the people it was lost on a little. And like Red Fang and Baroness definitely, up the energy level. But they were fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for Justin.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him before. And then I saw him sitting at the merch table. I'm like, I know that guy from somewhere. And then they're like, yeah, that's for the Justin from Killswitch. I'm like, that makes sense. I knew I've seen him before. Because I've seen Killswitch a bunch of times. They're a great live band.
Oh yeah,
Great live.
They got a big team. They're a perfect example of a band that like they take care of their team. I know everyone on their team, and their stage manager, their lighting guy, their tour manager, everything. They won't go anywhere without them, right? If they do one show in Vegas or in Sao Paulo, Brazil, they
They'll
bring
all
the whole
go.
team. Yeah, they won't.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So I know there's
But
a
when
big
you-
divide in it, but I'm definitely Team Howard.
Oh, you prefer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I like Jesse. I just happen to
he's
like
an incredible singer.
phenomenal.
I mean, yeah. Everything he's done is amazing.
Is it Light the Torch?
Like the
they're
Torch
really
is
good.
great. Blood has been shed. Whatever.
And he just did something new with Adam from Killswitch.
Oh yeah, we
They're-
haven't
they're-
heard that yet.
Yeah,
have
they're
we?
about to put it out. And
Yeah.
I like Times of Grace too, which is
Oh
Jesse.
yeah,
and
Times of
Adam.
Grace
Yeah.
is great.
It's definitely a cool little step away from the heaviness, I guess you could say.
That's Adam. Adam was in Times of Grace, right?
Adam,
Adam and Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were awesome. But yeah, when you go see Killswitch, you expect a great show, right?
Yeah.
So they're
I
always
went to see
they're always
them-
going to give you a great show.
Where the hell? I think it was at Starland, and they started playing the end of Heartache, and it was what Howard was singing at the time, and the crowd was singing so loud it literally just drowned out the entire PA system.
Wow.
And Howard just kind of like put the mic down and was like, "Why am I here?" He's like, "Take it away."
You want a funny Howard story?
Sure.
So I don't know if he had joined Killswitch yet, but he was, as far as I remember, it was Howard from Blood Has Been Shed.
Yeah.
This was like the early 2000s. This was maybe like 2003. When did Jesse join Killswitch? Like mid 2000s?
I want to say it was like 04?
Yeah, something like
03,
that. So this was
04,
maybe
somewhere
before
in
that.
there, yeah.
So I was selling merchandise at New England Metal Fest at the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I hung up these like giant Trustkill banners that I had. They're like 4 feet by 12 feet, huge banners. And one of them got stolen when the show was over. And we were like packing up, right? I had like my buddies helping me pack up. And I was like, oh, where's that other Trustkill banner? And someone was like, oh, I don't know. Someone must have stole it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. So we pack up and we go home. I don't think about it. A week later, Howard hits me up and goes, yo, dude, you know that banner that you got stolen or that banner you lost? I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, I found it.
Really?
He somehow found out the kid that stole it and went to his house and knocked on his door
It took it back?
and took it back.
Wow. Good on him.
And I still have that Trustkill banner now. Yeah. So if you see like all those old Hellfest videos, right, with the big Trustkill banners, that's the banner that I'm talking about. So I hung it up at New England Metal Fest, got stolen. Howard got it back. Imagine Howard knocking on your door.
He's a big boy.
He's a big, scary dude. Oh, yeah. And you open the door and he's like, you got a Trustkill banner? And the kid was probably like, yeah, hell yeah. I do.
Shit his pants. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That's called karma right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
All right, well, we'll start to wrap it up.
Huh?
Real quick, give a shout out to our sponsors, Mount American Brewery, Stafford Township, Low Fidelic Records, Main Street in Belmar, and TrueNewJersey.com. We'll put this code in the description for 10% off your first order. And thanks for coming out.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
man. Thanks
There's
for
a
having
lot
me.
of cool stories.
This was
Yeah.
cool. New Jersey podcast.
Yeah, we tried to
That's
just,
awesome.
what we did was like I said, we fell off the hamster wheel during COVID, and we decided that with the lack of opportunities, especially during COVID, that local bands had, at least this way we could try to provide another platform for them to be seen, because we'll bring bands in, we bring them in the studio, we do acoustic performances, we do good audio, he mixes it, and we put it on the video, and we give them like 2 to 3 songs that they can use for their own promotions and
Nice.
things of that nature. And we've done some shows, we record all our shows, so we try to just
Oh, yeah.
any way
little
we can,
something.
just help out,
It's cool.
So if like someone comes on and checks out like their friend's band, next time they log on YouTube, hopefully one of the 50-something bands we've had on
Yeah.
will just pop up on a recommended for them, and they just happen to check them out and fall in love with them,
That's awesome.
because that's kind of how it works these days.
If you want to check out what I'm listening to right now, you can follow this link from any of the Trustkill socials. But I have a Spotify playlist called Core, just Core, and it's like my top 100 current hardcore and metalcore songs.
Very cool.
So
Everybody
check that
definitely go
out.
check that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I'll have to put a link
Give
in
it
the
a follow.
description. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
Nice.
we'll give you the same question we give everybody on their way out of here. If there's one singular thing you could change about the local music scene today, what would it be and why?
Oh boy.
Just one singular thing. You're more of a, you deal with a lot of national bands too. So if you want to go national level, because we don't have the don't have the opportunity to ask that one.
I
right?
love the local music scene. I go to, as many shows as I can. When I was in 2 in Asbury just this week. But, oh man, well, the parking, that would be great.
We've come full circle.
Come full circle. Yeah, I mean, the parking in Asbury is nuts.
Just wait till see here now.
Oof. Yeah. I can't even imagine. What else would I change? Oh man.
Like it could be anything. Like we've gotten some the gauntlet of answers from this question. Like, get rid of pay to play is the usual one. One guy was like, we should use more dry venues because a lot of musicians have problems and shouldn't be around alcohol. And we've gotten every venue should have a green room.
Okay.
We've gotten a lot of
I don't remember the green room one.
a lot of really weird answers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like here,
I mean,
like name one venue in Ocean County, the entire county,
I can't.
because there's none.
Okay, that's
They're
a
all
problem.
gone.
So there's been we need a venue in Ocean
Monmouth
County.
County represent.
Well, we had venues; they're all gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So for me, being more from the hardcore scene, my issue with any venue is always like sometimes you just got to let hardcore bands be hardcore bands, and you got to let hardcore kids be hardcore kids and do what they do, which sometimes
stupid shit's gonna happen.
Stupid shit, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's insane, and some so. Which again, I'm gonna shout out Salties, because I think the Salties, the security there and everyone that works there, like they know what the fuck is up.
They get it. Yeah.
They get it. It's like you just know. You're like, like you gotta like squash some pit beef sometimes, and but let kids have a good time. Right? These are, for the most part, young kids. They're just having a great time, and they're swinging their arms, and sometimes people might catch a fist, but it's all in fun.
Yeah.
So you go to like a venue like Starland Ballroom, maybe it's a bit different, right?
Oh yeah.
They
Very
got
different.
bigger venue, bigger problems.
They'll yoke you right up and drag you out the door by your throat.
Yeah, exactly. they flash that light on you,
Yep.
and so
Yeah.
But,
Well, even in the hardcore scene, it's traditionally throughout time. It's if the problem is really that bad and has the potential of being that bad, the people in the crowd are going to squash it and handle it before the security even gets there.
that's true. Or the promoter, right?
Yeah.
The promoter should be involved and should be, and again, at Salties, and a lot of the hardcore shows in this area, the promoters are really involved, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll, shout out Dylan from Takedown again, and Swank, and Jay from Stomp Out, right? Like I saw Jay on your show.
I've known
Those
him
dudes
since
know
we were
what's up,
kids.
and they'll squash it, and they'll.
That's what I'm saying. If you got one guy acting a fool, there's normally going to be like, a good handful of people that walk up to him and be like, you need to knock it the
Also,
fuck
like,
off.
take care of your own scene.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
if you got some shithead out there just purposely hurting people.
Don't let it get to a point where it's going to affect everyone and shut down
Exactly.
the venue.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you'll get a venue that pops up and it starts, things start really rolling there, and then someone always does some dumb shit, and then no more hardcore, no more metal. We only want jam bands.
What was that venue up north? There was the Terror Unearth Black Dahlia Murder tour. Played the Club Cricket. Is that what it was called?
Never even heard of that.
It was up north somewhere. This was like 2000, I don't know, 6 or 7, I want to say. And I wasn't there. I was in Vegas for some reason. But shit got wild, and like kids were like breaking tables and throwing banisters, and like I guess it just went completely nuts. And
So it's like an old school Bad Luck 13 show.
Exactly. Yeah. There were no more shows at that venue after that.
Yeah.
Because it got a little too out of hand.
Oh yeah. I remember Bad Luck used to like pile tables up in the middle of the EFW halls and just light them on fire.
Yeah. The spiked baseball
Yeah,
bats,
barbed wire baseball bats,
pig heads, and the big tube lights.
Yeah, smashing fluorescent lights over each
Fluorescent
other.
lights.
They did like backyard wrestling while
Oh,
they
yeah.
were
It
playing.
was a good time. But again, you knew what to expect when you went to a
you-
Bad
yeah.
Luck show.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
It's like you're going to a Bad Luck show, you might catch a light bulb
Or a chair.
or a chair or a pig head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was
I booked them on Hellfest. I knew.
Yeah.
We made them play last
That's
because we knew shit was going to go down.
of course.
And it did.
You planned accordingly.
You guys last.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, man.
Yes,
Yeah, man.
thank you,
Thanks for
man.
Really
having me.
appreciate it. And everybody, make sure you go check out Trustkill Records. Give them a like, follow, support what they do. And we're out.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Done.
Oh, what you don't even hit my sound.
Oh, it doesn't even work. The heck
What are you doing?
What'd you do?
How long was that? Oh, it's like.
You just got to learn how to hit a button.
Bye.